Have you ever wondered what the world was like before humans dominated the planet? When massive creatures roamed and exotic species flourished in places they no longer inhabit? As powerful as our species has become, we have also caused the extinction of countless animals, from the mighty mammoth to small birds on isolated islands. Today, I want to take you back in time through rare footage of animals that are now gone. We'll get a glimpse of some incredible beasts that our ancestors witnessed when wilderness stretched as far as the eye could see. Their worlds were so different from our own, but by looking back, we can get a sense of what has been lost. We'll also reflect on how delicate the balance of nature is, and our role in protecting the biodiversity that remains. The animals we'll meet are like characters in a movie, where the ending is already written. But seeing them alive and in action helps us remember they were more than statistics. They were fellow inhabitants of this planet. Are you ready for our cinematic journey back in time? Here we go! The Tasmanian tiger. Our first stop is the island of Tasmania in 1933, where we find one of the most legendary animals driven to extinction, the Tasmanian tiger. With its dog-like build, tiger-like stripes, and marsupial pouch, this unusual carnivore resembles a hybrid of species. The last known individual lived in a zoo until its death in 1936. This precious film shows the animal pacing in its enclosure. Its fluid, hopping gait and tensed muscles speak of a predator adapted to chasing prey. Hard to believe that in a few short years, its thousand-generation legacy would completely disappear. Passenger pigeons, heading north to the forests of eastern North America, we arrive in the 1800s when billions of passenger pigeons blackened the skies. These fast-flying birds were highly social, nesting in enormous concentrated flocks. But their numbers made them easy targets for professional hunters. Deforestation also deprived them of their preferred habitat of large oak and beech trees. The last passenger pigeon, named Martha, died alone in the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. 100 years ago, the skies went silent as a species that had lived for millions of years vanished. With no photographic evidence, all that remains are written memories and preserved skins. Baiji. Now we come to the year 2002 in China's Yangtze River, where a desperate search is underway for the Baiji or white-fin dolphin, nicknamed Goddess of the Yangtze. With their long beaks and sleek grey bodies, they were built for speed in one of the world's longest rivers. But deadly pollution, underwater construction and collisions with ships proved too much. Conservationists captured the last filmed images before the species was declared functionally extinct just 4 years later. The goddess lost her home and her people lost a sacred symbol of the mighty river, Caribbean monk seal. We continue our journey on the seas of the Caribbean in the 1950s. Here we witness the last survivors of the Caribbean monk seal, as recorded in photos and journals from those fateful last years. Prized by hunters and persecuted by angry fishermen, this warm-loving species was driven from its beaches and reefs. The monk seal's trusting nature also led them to be easily slaughtered. By the early 1950s, only a handful remained. Soon, even these last lonely seals disappeared, leaving only traces in fading memories. The changes in the ocean ecosystem meant this species could find no safe space to call home. Ivory-billed woodpecker. Heading inland again to the cypress swamps of the US Southeast, we listen for the low, throbbing drumroll of the possibly extinct ivory-billed woodpecker. It was one of the giants of its family, needing vast old-growth forests and trees large enough to excavate its nests. But by the mid-1900s, industrial logging had removed most of its habitat. In this brief rediscovered film footage from the 1930s, listen for its rhythmic hammering as it chisels the bark. Those powerful blows would never again echo through American woods, showing that even wilderness is not safe from human destruction. The Guam kingfisher. On the Pacific island of Guam, a short vintage clip shows us a native forest bird no longer seen outside of cages. The Guam kingfisher, with its spiky blue and white plumage, clings to its perch, unaware that its restriction to captivity will become permanent. Local species driven extinct like this often don't make international headlines. But the kingfisher would be yet another casualty of invasive brown tree snakes that plague its island home. Non-native predators can quickly create imbalance in island ecosystems. For the kingfisher, there would be no going back to the wild, Laysan rail. On another Pacific island, Laysan in the northwest Hawaiian chain, we get a glimpse back to the 1920s when the Laysan rail still scurried through the brush. This odd-looking flightless bird with a fluffy face and stubby wings used to flourish here. But then, rabbits were introduced, devouring the vegetation the rails depended on and leaving the island barren. Despite rescue efforts, the rail vanished along with most other native life on Laysan. Without plants to hold the soil, the island eroded away, becoming a cautionary tale of ecological catastrophe. Wren. Halfway around the world, New Zealand's Stephen Island was once home to a tiny flightless wren that scampered mouse-like along the ground. But photographs and dead specimens are all that remain of the unique species. With the lighthouse keeper's introduction of a single cat in 1894, the Stephen Island wren was suddenly at the mercy of an expert predator against which it had no defenses. The wren's naivete and lack of fear proved fatal. With no time to adapt, it was erased by a danger it could not comprehend. Heath hen. On America's East Coast, we travel back to the 1930s to witness the last years of a ground-dwelling bird of the forest and scrubland. The heath hen was a unique subspecies of prairie chicken that once populated the entire east coast of the United States. But as human development expanded in the 1800s and early 1900s, the heath hen's scrubland habitat was steadily converted to farms and settlements. By the 1920s, it was restricted to one final refuge on Martha's Vineyard Island. Conservationists attempted captive breeding to save the remaining heath hens, but the wild population continued to decline. Soon, only one lone male remained, desperately calling out for a mate that would never arrive. Despite intense efforts to reverse its fate, the very last heath hen died in 1932. With his passing, an endemic bird that had brightened North America's Atlantic forests for thousands of years faded into extinction. The heath hen serves as a symbol of how rapidly human encroachment can destroy native wildlife within just a couple generations. Pyrenean ibex. For our last stop, we visit the mountain crags of northern Spain, where one of Europe's most distinctive wild goats made its final stand. The Pyrenean ibex, with its massive curved horns, was superbly adapted to climb and bound across steep cliffs, but poaching and habitat disturbance left only a tiny herd by the end of the 1900s. With less than 30 individuals in 2000, the Pyrenean ibex slipped beyond the point of return. The video from that time is heartbreaking, showing the last female as she lived her final days alone, the last of a line stretching back over 50,000 years. And now our journey through lost worlds must end, at least for today. I hope this glimpse into the recent past has vividly illustrated just how much our activities have changed the natural heritage of so many lands in so few generations. The stories of these animals reveal how their fates and ours have always been intertwined. Perhaps by understanding the past, we can create a future where such stories have happier endings. There's still so much beauty to be rediscovered, restored, and protected, if we have the wisdom and compassion to do so. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to Unexplained Studios.